Are you home or home? Just teasing.
Julie, you're live, but you're not recording. At least
Not yet. I'm recording now and it went live, so.
Okay.
All right, we good?
Yep.
All right, call to order March 10th, 2021 Parks and Recreation Committee meeting. In attendance tonight is the full committee of myself, Mr. Bodkins, and Mr. Richard. If I could hear a motion to approve, if you've reviewed the minutes from February 10th Parks and Recreation meeting.
I'll approve. I'd like to make a motion to approve the previous minutes.
I'll second that.
Thank you.
All right, great. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
All right, looks like we have a decent agenda for tonight. If I could hear a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
I'll make that motion to approve tonight's agenda.
And I'd like to second that.
All right, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
All right, good deal. It looks like we have 4 discussion items up for topic tonight. Discussion item number 1 is the Freeze Fund project discussion. We just received the list this evening. Looks pretty detailed and it looks pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and defer to the mayor if he'd like to get us started on the ideas behind over what we're looking at here.
Thank you, Aaron. Just a refresher on procedure. On Friday, there'll be the deadline for submission for this year's round of what I'll call, for lack of a better term, traditional freeze project allocation. I don't think the meeting is this week, is it, Matt?
No, it is not. Just the application deadline.
So then just the freeze advisory committee will review those. That's, without getting too far off the subject, that will be the next step. And then those projects approved by the freeze advisory committee will come back to this committee for kind of official approval before it goes to council. Then after council passes it, it goes to the Freeze Foundation. Generally, with those couple 3 filters, we clean up projects that don't qualify and really get a list that's fundable. So first thing I wanted to say is that's the process. So what we wanted to do tonight was go over, if you will, a tentative list and refresh folks' memory on where we are with reference to 2020 projects. So if you'll indulge me, I'll go there first.
Please.
There are 2 projects that we deferred. I'll talk about the one that in hindsight we probably shouldn't have deferred, and those were extensive, meaning $25,000 worth of repairs to the slide at the park, at the swimming pool. So if you'll remember, we sort of abruptly opened up the pool. Didn't look like they were going to open public pools. From our point of view, that happened. In the approved projects for last year is I think a allocation chunk of money, if that's not too informal, that will satisfy the improvements for, shall we say, a 10-year or more period at the pool. Last time we visited this, there was a discussion about how extensive the pool repairs would be. We've talked to two of the 3 firms that we're going to consult with. We had an engineer come over and said with relatively limited repairs, we could bring extra life to Heisey Park Pool. So that's one project in the 2020. It's already funded. I think that we may fall a little short, but I'm pretty confident that that'll be satisfactory to fix the pools. It was in there to replace the slide and major repairs, but I'm not sure there's enough interest in that. We're going to fix the slide proposed to fix the pool and go on at the $25,000 range. Nikki, anything on that? Any beyond that?
I will say the slide is in the process of being repaired by Mosier. I asked him for an update, so I know they've fabricated the stairs and we're going to paint that on site and then, weld it in place at the park. So that at least is underway, and I anticipate that being complete well before the pool opens for the season.
Right, so that, I think that freeze dollars and what Nikki talked about as far as repair on the slide will take care of that, one of the two chunks of money. The other chunk of money, man, what a bad term that is netting at Pico. It's, I don't know. We're lucky somebody hasn't got conked on the head and it's been an issue. So there's $85,000 allocated for safety netting at Pico. So that's 2020 stuff. What you got this afternoon, and I recognize it was kind of late in the game, but again, this will come back around to the committee, is what we think are our, I don't want to say loosely prioritized, but certainly not written in stone priorities on what we think is the best use of about 450,000 that we'll have in 2021 freeze funds. So I'll stop there. That's what you have in front of you. Kind of open for discussion. We like all the projects, and I think I don't have much to add beyond that. Yeah, there's a list of them.
I guess my question, just for clarification, the netting at Pico, if I recall, and Mr. Bodkins and Mr. Richard, the 85,000, if I remember correctly, we kind of put that on hold because we were possibly and potentially looking at a different netting system than the one that we originally looked at, because the one that we were going to upgrade to would actually provide shade as well. Does that ring a bell?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, absolutely. And I would say that that money is there, and we'll look at, I guess what I would say to that is that I believe 85,000 will get us either kind of a traditional netting or what you're describing, or at least we'll go into the project refinement stage, maybe putting, excuse me, a lid or a lid certainly on freeze dollars at 85,000. We may have to go searching around in the parks budget if the right fix that you're describing comes in a little bit higher. But yeah, you're right. It is 2020 money that, and if you look into the accounts, chart of accounts, you'll see that there. It's there's a relatively large freeze construction fund balance. So part of it is swimming pool, things that we, in hindsight, probably could have done last year because we got a lot of use out of the pool. And then this hold that we put on the safety netting on a Pico. So
Could I ask a question, please, Tom?
Please.
This is addressed to Tom. Is that netting, Tom, does that curtail all the fields out there or just one or two?
the whole, trying to get coverage for that whole
The whole complex?
the whole complex.
Okay,
And Ken will probably go to the end of the dugouts.
yeah, okay.
Argument, you should extend the netting farther down the outfield lines. Then all of a sudden that starts to, it just gets, you make the project cost prohibitive. So that's what we've settled on. We'll get you over the next few days or weeks in kind of a drawing. It's not an engineer drawing, but an idea of where we would start, where we would stop, what we think we'll get for 85 grand.
Is there any possibility that the project engineer on that or whoever's going to do it could come to town and just walk us through that someday?
Yeah, I think, yes. I mean, it'll be a bid project likely, Ken.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it won't be done in one day.
No, and it'll have to be bid out likely, given the price of the expected budget price. So yeah, absolutely.
Okay, well, wait till that project price comes in then.
Yep. We've been
Okay.
putting for a while, Ken, and the rest of the committee. This has been on the list, identified by the survey that was done on use of freeze funds, heck, a handful of years ago, and that really needs to get done. And there are a couple options. So yeah, absolutely. Before we do anything,
Probably, the new fence is probably a far cry from a lawsuit, someone getting hurt, so.
for sure. And it's, yeah, you go out there, there's incoming, and that heads up thing is, maybe that worked back in the 50s or 60s, but it doesn't
Yeah.
work these days.
You
So,
couldn't holler loud enough.
your heads up, of course, is the worst thing to do. Look up and get hit in the eye, but I'm getting silly on that. So anyway,
Thank you.
helps.
I if I could interject, I love the idea at about 21 grand per field. I think that's very reasonable with the installation, but I would love, other than just, considering the protection of the kids that are playing out there. We've all sat out there in that blazing sun. Tom, you and I umpired out there, I believe, once or twice. And I think that the shade aspect of that netting is critical. Because those are long days with tournaments, and, not only do we have to consider injury from the balls, but look at heat exhaustion and, heat overload. So I love this idea, I just would really like to suggest that we really look into the shading component on these nets as well. So.
Cool. So anyways, that's 2020. In front of us, Julie was good enough to put up the other, what we would describe as our suggestion. I didn't add them up, I probably should have, but I think this list leaves room for other qualified applicants, if that doesn't sound too bureaucratic, 501c3s and the schools to compete for that 454,000 and change. So
Yeah.
anyways, so if I could, let me just go on for another minute or two. The project one, I think our suggestion is the city takes the path of least resistance to extend the bike path. We can do without any kind of property acquisition or any, asking anyone else's permission to act like a snot about it. But we can move north up to the school campus, that part of it. Hesby Drive was designed to have that west side of the road wide enough and flat enough to basically put in a bike path, walking path. But I think the detraction is, where does it lead to? And so 130 gets us up to what I would describe as Highland, that Hesby Drive, Highland, or Heisey Park intersection. So that's all the farther it gets. Have had what I considered a good introductory, if you will, conversation with the superintendent about, and the purpose of that was, which way do you want us to plan to get around the school property? Right through it, it's probably a shorter distance, but kind of around the perimeter. And so what I hope, in the next a short period of time that we get some feedback from the school about how they want us to get around or through their property. Just let me add one more thing on the grants that we've applied for that we hope we get. If we could get some money in some of the trails grant programs or other state/federal programs, we definitely, my opinion or thoughts would be, we would try to tackle the school property if we do that. So that the going around the school is going to be certainly a lot more money and not envisioned in that 130 number. Okay. The second one is I think a lot of people who are curious and a lot of recreational people or fitness people have been out on the existing bike trail. You get to the south end down there by the end of the treatment plant, and you think about how do you make that next leg. So for a while we talked about, we got to figure out how to get up Hosford Road or to the west off Hosford Road. That seems, without going into too much detail, another alternative. And this is what this one envisions in that 180 is to go along the property line on the north end of the sewer plant, along up next to what I call the Clarendon subdivision, but maybe it's not the right name, and punch out, quote unquote, at Biddle Road. So that's what that 180 is. That's a rough estimate. Initial contact with the property owner that would affect, but nothing firm and nothing more than let's get the project approved and then start talking about clearing the right of way and acquiring the stuff that the city doesn't own. So that's that. It's the most doggone popular thing. If I thought we could put bike paths everywhere and we have as many people as are out on that existing one, we'd have a bike path in every neighborhood, but it's I think these are logical next steps.
Very good. I personally, Mr. Richard, Mr. Bodkins, I absolutely love the idea of extending these bike paths. I think I couldn't agree more that it has been a huge hit since we opened up that first leg of the bike path. I'm just going down tonight's agenda. We've already discussed the swimming pool repairs. Mayor, what is the Frank Shelter again? Can you remind me, please? Where is that at?
Hey, that's inside baseball, man. You got to know all those shelters have names. Bet you didn't know that. I didn't. It's the Frank Shelter is the shelter at Heisey Park, next to the new bathroom, kind of east of, and we did it doesn't leak. So in terms of it being sound, it's okay. But what we're suggesting is that with everything else being modernized down there, a modern shelter is kind of the next thing. We're going to begin to open up. Heck, the phone never stopped ringing in terms of wanting to rent our shelters and our pavilions. We're going to start to open that up. And so what we're envisioning is a new shelter there that is, inviting and a nice complement to the Graders Park and the new bathroom and that whole improvement. So anyway, everybody, if you're old enough to be a catalog shopper, you can, all of us that have looked at this have looked at the numerous catalogs, and we got all kinds of ideas. I think that's where this idea will go. That you all on council will look at, I like this, I like that, and we can settle in on a shelter for that.
I apologize to Mr. Bodkins and Mr. Richard. I moved on to the next topic without asking what your opinions and your thoughts were on the bike paths proposition. So please take the floor.
I'm not a bike path user, but I know people that are, and I think it's a good idea. It really does. I just wonder, Tom, this is addressed to you. If could you encompass that bike path going by the school a little bit wider of a project, wider, so they could use it for maybe cross-country running or something like that?
The cross-country folks are, some of the ones you see out there.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think 12-foot wide's wide enough.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah. Yep.
Mike, what are your thoughts? I'm sorry, Tom, go ahead.
I think they'll leave from the school, run all the way down and back. So it's just a question of whether we, I would probably go west and do that Biddle Road connection, if you will.
Yeah.
Unless we get significant money to get up around the school this year. So we're not, the money's there in terms of freeze money for this year. I think we sort of wait and see to which one we have actually engineered. But we can build this project this year.
It sounds like the Biddle Road project, the south end is probably more easy to work with right now. As far as acquisition of property and stuff, we don't have much problem there.
No, it shouldn't be, and we haven't tested it out on the neighbors. So they may think this is an awesome idea on Clarendon. Help me, some of the other Glade Avenue. I'm gonna miss one of them, but it's that little subdivision in Polk Township that would see, more traffic at the north end of their neighborhood. But
Okay.
but anyways, that's enough.
And I
said.
had one more question, Tom. Was that shelter repair or replacement? Was that an enclosed shelter?
No, I mean,
Just
nothing's
a new roof.
Yeah, but this was envisioned as largely a replacement using kind of a modern design, a modern material.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mike, did you have anything to add?
Well, I just was gonna defer to Julie there, because she's had her hand up for a while.
Oh, I didn't see that. I'm sorry,
That's
Julie.
all right.
I
That's
minimized everybody.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I said I would bring some up about the waste receptacles. I know I did not put them as a separate line item on the agenda for the dog waste. I didn't know if that would be part of the expansion of the bike path is to include the dog waste receptacles or whatever, if that was planned outside of that.
Yeah, I
After
think
Miss
it is.
Earlston's email, I don't think it'd be a bad idea to consider that.
The short answer is yes. It's funny, as a frequent user and observer of people using the trail, it's funny, yes is the answer, but responsible dog hunters usually take a bag with them. So it'd be interesting to see how that goes, but you can't complain too much about dog crap on the bikeway if you don't provide something for somebody who forgot it or needs a little reminder. So yeah, I think that is, I'm really, since you didn't ask this, I'll go on for a second. I think we should do things like birdhouses. My wife's all excited about that. She's right about that. We were out there last week and next summer put a birdhouse. You know what? They didn't ask my permission. They didn't ask council's permission. So I'm mad about that. But anyways, I that is, kind of, everybody can add their touch. It's pretty cool, Ken. I'm gonna, Jay will coax you out there.
You think so?
I have. I was wondering, I drove by the bike path the other day, and instead of walking, I thought I saw people playing hopscotch, and now I have a general understanding as why. They were dodging the mines on the bike path. So I just on the topic of the bike path, Mayor, do you envision this bike path eventually continuing north out to Pico? Is that an opportunity or an option?
The vision, that's the vision. It's gonna be a few years, so we gotta, I think the how we make ourselves more competitive for some of the big grant dollars is to have an existing path. Last time we applied, we were guessing at how many folks would use it. Now we've got a bunch of actual history, and so it's competitive. It may take a while, but that is the vision. Get all the way out to Pico. Dare say, not to uncork but you got to get to the freeze center when that becomes a reality. So getting out at Brant Road, close to the proposed freeze center, that's the vision. And then I think we're going to talk about a walking path at the south end. So I'll save it for that. But I think that's the footprint, if you will.
Okay.
It makes it connect to the county plan or the county proposal if such a thing happens.
Julie?
Okay, you'll have to keep watching me because I've got questions.
I got my
coming
eye on
in.
you. If I give you a thumbs up, that means I see your hand up.
Okay, all right. Heath had said, could we get an access point to the bike trail near the Hessenauer area? A lot of residents have asked about near the water treatment, near the water treatment plant, probably that property that the city bought, there, that kind of dead end at Hessenauer, I'm thinking they're talking about.
Yeah, that's a good suggestion. I think council member Earlston had already pointed that out. And
Yes, he did mention that in his
a safer, less frontiersman-like approach. If folks are not familiar, there's quite a ravine there, and so yeah, there's enough city property. It would be at the very end of Hessenauer Drive. So yes, I think other people come down Wrench Drive at kind of what would be a little bit east of that. So yeah, an access point's a good thing before somebody takes a tumble.
Wonderful. Mike or Kenny, any other comments on the bike path proposals or ideas?
Well, I just thought receptacles, maybe we could 5-gallon buckets out there for
Yeah, the responsible people will clean up after themselves, but
them.
everybody is. So.
Or we can invest in a bunch of chalk to make those hopscotch boards out there. So, I prefer the receptacles. I'll tell you what, if this comes back just with these this $310,000 for the 2 new additions to the bike path, I mean, that's something that I could see myself getting behind without any objection whatsoever. It is so popular and so well used. Mike or Ken, any other comments on the bike paths?
No,
Because
not
we can
really.
wrap up the rest of the email with the next 2 items on our agenda for tonight, which would be East Park and the dog parks. We can, Julie, go ahead.
Sorry, if you're skipping.
No, you're fine.
I did have somebody say, can the current Frank shelter be reused somewhere else where cosmetics isn't as important? And then Tom did reply to that and say most likely it would be cost prohibitive to dismantle and move. So I don't know if that's a possibility.
Probably about as on top of it as this, Tom, but I would agree with him on that. I'd say, yeah, it's probably not cost effective. It's pretty old. I think the renovating it one more time, we put a new roof on, it's probably not cost effective. And it's, so I think it's function and cosmetic. So that's my answer to that. We're not proposing that.
Very good. Mike or Ken, anything else on the bike paths before we move on to East
No.
Park?
Nothing
All
for
right.
me.
So discussion item A, I think we're pretty much good to go on the freeze fund projects. Discussion B, we can wrap in the $60,000 potential request for the East Park backstops with other discussion. Mayor, what's your idea on the backstop out there?
I think that we'll get a proposal from one of the travel organizations. They'll remain nameless for a little suspense, but I think they're going to make a proposal. One of the groups, it's a 501c3, and they're going to make a request for other improvements at East Park. I haven't seen it, that request, but I'm optimistic we'll see it by Friday. Things like rebuilding the dugouts, doing some of the field improvements. And so I expect them to come with a non-city request of that 450 for some improvements. And I'm pretty, I don't know if we'll get everything done this year, but bringing that back to life, I think is important. We need to start with a backstop. And so one of the things we found when we looked at netting and backstop and chain link fence is that there's a better way to provide safety and be less of a nuisance to the neighbors down there. And certainly reduce any safety risk you might have in Splash Park. So we're going to propose a backstop. That number came roughly from what was spent down at Heisey Park Field. So I think I'm okay with it. I think as a planning number, it'll it'll get us where we want to go. We may find, and what I'm proposing, and that would be 100% city portion of that. And then the rest of the stuff that comes in from the travel groups, those 501c3 groups, we'll do the 75-25 partnering on that. Dugouts, not cool down there. The surface to play on could use something. I don't think we'll get the whole damn, the whole darn, the whole perimeter, but I think we can, it would be playable. And if we get the, oh heck, what's the right word? The demand, people want to use it now that it's starting to turn the corner, then I think it's a safe risk, say in 2022, for the city to go ahead and, put that outfield fence and some other things.
Okay.
Folks that know, East Park Field know what I'm talking about. The rest of the people shut up, on, so I'll shut up and move on. But I think 60 grand will get us a backstop, and we'll see by Friday what kind of requests we get from those guys.
Wonderful. I reiterated last Parks and Rec meeting, it's just very encouraging that the potential to reuse that field and to modify it and beautify it again and actually have people using it is encouraging. Mike or Ken, do you have any thoughts on the East Park ball field situation? It looks like we're making some progress.
I think we need to wait and see what these fellows are going to do financially first.
That's fair.
The way I heard the project to begin with, when I spoke with them, was they was going to pay for all of it.
That's what I was understanding as well.
And I understood that. Now might put 60,000 in, but will we top it out at 60, Tom, and let them finish it up, or what?
I don't know for sure. We'll see Friday. What I would say about that is that in the proposal, the conversation I had with that same group that you had, is that replacing the backstop wasn't, let's say, one of the items. They would go with what's there.
Mhm.
And it's just not making it anymore. That old chain link fence that's been there as long as I can remember.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm, I think it also, without going on too much, it answers the question about foul balls coming off the third base side down there that end up in the splash park area. So we want to make sure that we've got that taken care of. Back in the day when it was a swimming pool, and it was a men's league, there were foul balls that went over there a lot. I think folks concerned about safety, and quite candidly, the age of the people at the splash park. You got a lot of little kids for whom heads up is probably, they haven't computed that. So I want to make that third base side safer than it was the last time it saw regular use.
Yeah. Not to mention that fence pretty much going around that thing is literally curled under in so many places. And if you get a kid running, you're looking at a huge gash on a leg or a bad cut. Julie, what's going on?
Oh, no, I'm just waiting to do that. I have a question about East Park, so.
Okay, please.
Chad wants to know, what age groups is East Park field going to serve, and what are the field dimensions?
I think the mayor alluded last month that that would be more for the youth because of the lengths of the fence. You get the bigger, older kids there, and we could be having broken windows across the street in right center field. Is that, Tom, was I onto something there? More than 9 and 10-year-olds, 11-year-old, 12-year-olds maybe?
Well, they play this, yes.
Okay.
From 7 years old up. So you get this tightness on field use because there are so many kids at younger ages that want to play in a more competitive setting. So I'll say it that way. But yeah, I think it probably tops off practically just like you said at 12. At 13, I don't know.
I'll tell you, we umped for a lot of years together. I don't know too many 12 and 13-year-olds that can hit 300-foot home runs. Those fences are 290 all the way around. I'm sure it can happen with you make good contact with one of those balls, it's going to go with these travel kids. But for the most part, go ahead, Julie.
Bats are hotter now too.
Yeah. Balls are
I-
wound a little tighter.
One of the coolest things that has been done that doesn't get much recognition unless you're in the area is we took the baseball size field at Pico and built, I think, a really competitive baseball diamond.
Mhm.
And so I would think that the travel teams at 13, 14, 15 be better suited out there, but we won't solve that tonight. But to answer the question, it's probably that, if you will, little league and what they call coach pitched age
Mhm.
kid that would be using that field.
That's wonderful. A lot of tournament potential too, and bring in a lot of, whether it's, Galleon youth baseball holding, it's just an extra field, to
Yeah.
bring people to the community and spending money down there at the Dairy Queen and East Side Carryout. I'm sure those owners would not complain whatsoever.
Yeah, I think you're a year out. I agree with you.
Yeah.
I think you're a year out in terms of planning those tournaments. But when you talk to the guys and the baseball moms that are involved in that, in order to have those tournaments, we're kind of one field short. So
Yeah.
what this would change it a little or a lot, be able to have those tournaments you referenced. You
Mhm.
really need High C,
Yeah.
South Park, and if we had East, we could do some things with what they call pool play, so that you could get tournaments that aren't limited in size by the number of fields you have.
Right.
So,
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Mike or Ken, did you have anything else to add to the East Park ball field discussion tonight?
And I think we just need a little more information and that we can go
Yep.
on from there. Yeah.
Fair enough. Good deal. Well, I guess if there's nothing else to add, we can move on to the next item, which is the dog park. I see a $35,000 potential freeze request for the dog park idea that we've discussed, and that's encouraging as well. So, Mayor, go ahead. What did your
throw
on your
Matt
mind for this?
on this one, that 35,000 is, we've been trying to work up an estimate for this meeting. So I jokingly say that I think this really is an estimate on a 1 acre park with fencing. Is that fair, Matt? The fencing,
That's correct. Fencing and then basic amenities, couple benches, a pet waste station.
yeah. So
Is that did you have a location in mind? Is that the Colby Park area that we're referring to, or?
We're just saying generally for a roughly 1 acre dog park, we think it would be at least 35,000.
the best
Very
way,
nice. Okay.
fencing, that's so that the dog doesn't run off, the little dogs don't eat up big dogs don't eat up the little dogs. You separate them. What it doesn't include, and where I think the most frequently discussed local target, Colby Park, is, there's provisions for doggy waste, but there's no bathrooms out there. So if that turns
Mhm.
out to be the most practical / popular site for a dog park, we're gonna have to factor in a bathroom, so you got fresh water back there, and a way to get rid of any waste. So I only mention that as to say that we're gonna have to look at that as costs. Other sites that you
Yeah.
may, top of your head, think of, other candidates, you might find a city restroom closer than you would at Colby Park. So that's just a couple thoughts about that. I like the location, but those are about 65, 70 grand to drop
I was going
those.
to say, if we look at Colby Park and the 35,000, I think we all agree is not going to come anywhere close to cutting it as far as cost, because there's so much more to consider. Clearing the land. Mike, you alluded to that last month. That could be a very large sum of money just to get it cleaned up back there. So, there's a lot to consider about Colby Park as well that goes into it than just, putting chain link fence up and some stuff. But the idea, I'm glad that they're requesting, or they're going to request that from the Freeze Foundation, and it's something that we can move forward with. If it's a great idea and there's a lot of demand for it. So, Julie?
Okay. Heath said Kobe Park is perfect and he wants to know if the dog park, he said, does the dog park have traction as a priority? I think it will be similar to the bike path in popularity.
I
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah, I have nothing to say other than it's a priority. It's on the list.
Mhm.
And I just, I think it's kind of under budgeted. What we've offered tonight is just a piece of what I think Matt and myself, and all of us that have looked at it. Couple of other things. I can't see, I know I see Tammy's on there. I'm not sure if Kara, Councilman Alt is on there.
She's
She's-
watching on Facebook.
Okay, she has a fair amount of, she's done some legwork on that. And so as we firm up the request, how much we're gonna expect city funds to be used, how much freeze funds, it's kind of the same distinction without a difference. But anyways, I think incorporating some of the things that she's found in some of the other dog parks, I don't think it's exhaustive research, but it adds to what we know about parks that would work. All right.
Kara's done quite a bit behind the scenes with a lady named Samantha, I know I've been sending some emails to Matt and to Julie just about some drawings or rough drafts and some ideas from other communities. Julie?
Eric says the land is clear, very large area back there. And Samantha says just to get it started, that would work. I think she's referring to the amount. Then we
Yeah.
could work each year on something new to add. So yeah, she's like looking at a phase approach. And Becky says Shelby has a great dog park and it has no restrooms. And Eric said the city currently owes way more than an acre.
Who was that? I agree with all that. Who was the person that said they don't have a bathroom?
That was Becky said that Shelby has a great dog park that doesn't have a bathroom.
Self in trouble. It's my specialty. It amazed, if that came from a guy that grew up out in the woods, I'd get it. But I can't a woman, and so like, when did Shelby be? I get it. I don't want to be aggressive about it, but man, I'm not into it unless there's a bathroom within sort of walking distance. Out of deference to people of all ages. I don't want to make an elderly joke. I made an enemy by joking about people of age, and so I don't want to make another enemy. But same thing with kids. I think we're gonna do this right. I think we want to, but it's good information. I think you can make the same thing that the park over in Bucyrus, it has a bathroom because it's in All Miller Park, but it's not as as large as what we could do at Kobe. So anyways, that's all I got. I want to do this with a bathroom, even if it's year 2 or something like that. So.
And hey, Tom, I agree with you. The bathroom, the other part of that, remember, is that Kobe's got that shelter out there. Though
Yeah.
it does need some repair with a bathroom that would make that more attractive for rental.
I would agree with that, Mike. Short of hitting it with the wrecking ball, which you're sometimes tempted to do, this might be a way to bring Kobe Park into some useful, and then you might have some rentals. I wouldn't rule that out at all. So
Yeah.
anyways, that's 35 grand. I don't know. How much does that all add up to, Matt? It is
405,000,
much.
405.
Yeah, well, aren't we? We're leaving a little bit less left for the schools and everybody else. So that number may get filtered a little bit. That's 405 in new projects.
Yep.
Yeah,
So
I
there's
think that,
about 50 left over.
yeah, that counts both ends of the bike path.
Yeah.
So that's a way to, I think we'll see something from the schools, although I don't have any crystal ball or any advance notice about that, but I believe the schools may make a request coming up this year. All right.
Thank you, Tom. Julie?
All right, Samantha says there has been porta pots there before, but I think phase approach is a great idea to possibly add later. And then off the dog park, Sarah asked if it could possibly be, include, maybe we could throw in moving the sand volleyball courts to a safer place.
All right, Sam. Like last time I saw her at the park, she like acted like she didn't know me, so I'm kind of mad at her. But yeah, she's right about that. We could do a phased approach. We limped along at the railroad pavilion until we got with porta pots until we got that so that we could A, afford it, and B, get it ordered and delivered. So I think that's, it's a good idea. As far as the moving the sand volleyball courts, there's no disagreement about that. I don't see it as a freeze project. I see it as something that could easily be done in-house. And I think the biggest, I don't want to say challenge, but the final decision has to be, if you move it, how far are you going to move it? And so are you just going to move it a little south, meaning 100 feet south, where the old merry-go-round was, in that area, be kind of east of the Frank shelter? Maybe that's the right spot, outside of the interference with the baseball field. Or do you move it across into the area that's been kind of opened up with the demo of the bathroom and over by the basketball court? So I'm apt, and I think she knows it. Sarah knows that that should be a project done in-house, but I don't think it's going to cost so much as to get into the freeze foundation and those sorts of things. So. All right, here we go.
I was on mute. Sorry, Julie. Go ahead.
Okay,
Yeah.
Sarah did suggest, beside the tennis courts.
Oh, way out on the other side of the creek. Yeah, I think that's awesome. I think it's a suggestion. I think you always want to look at like a heads up with the adjacent neighbors. That's kind of been undeveloped part of Heisey Park. But she's talking about over by Diamond Street or Church. The only thing I'd say about that is, make sure folks know that it's coming. So over by the tennis courts, go ahead.
She did say unless the tree comes down by the old bathrooms.
Nah, it ain't coming down. Me and Ken are gonna outlive that son of a gun, but it ain't going to. No, I think it's just too beautiful a tree, and we were able to save it with the removal of that other one. So yeah, probably not. It is a barrier for volleyball. I wouldn't, what she's talking about is the horseshoe pit / cornhole area that you could put it there. Yeah, but yeah, I think it's a good idea, and we ought to move it. And, but it's not a big dollar deal, so what I'm trying to convey.
This is the
good.
busiest
Fine.
I've been on this Facebook since we started doing this. Samantha says we talked about having bird boxes off the bike trail when we talked at the playground. By the way, blue bird boxes are a great idea. If you wanted some purple martin houses, they have to be set up before April when the males scout, and they prefer a wetland habitat.
Okay. I love that stuff. I hope she has a sense of humor, but she didn't smile last time I saw her. As long as we don't have chicken coops on that bike path out there, I'm all in favor of promoting fowl and wildlife, but I hope she has a sense of humor about that. I don't want to ignite her, but she's a real advocate for allowing limited number of egg laying chickens. And so I'm teasing her. Smart person. I appreciate the insight on the birds, but a lot of stuff can be done back there. You go back there, it's like, wow, you don't have to have much of an imagination to see the next couple steps of the existing bike path. So
Fantastic. All right, Mike or Ken, any other thoughts on the dog park, the chicken coops on the bike path, or anything like that? I mean, I'm all open here. Good meeting.
Well, I wouldn't, I was just gonna say that I don't believe 35,000, that would just cover the cosmetics to clean the park up out there.
Right.
Yeah, I think you're right. And how much force account work you'd use, that's, I think, we'll see how that goes. I don't know. I think it's the best suggestion for use of Kobe Park. Maybe since the day some of us were out there and Ralph dedicated it. It's been a long time ago now. So it's, I'm open to making a run at it. And these dang gone dog advocates, they're not going to go away, you guys, until we do something about it. So we might as well just build them a damn park and be it. So
I'll say this, before we get to the next item up for bid, which doesn't have it's just an initial discussion, but I'll tell you what, if this was proposed in an ordinance form tonight with this 405,000, with these 4 or 5 projects, with the money left over for the schools, I could not disagree with any of this. I think this is fantastic. The bike paths, the dog park, the getting back into the East Park ball field, money already allocated for the swimming pools and, the netting. Does anybody else have anything they would like to add to the topics of discussion before we move to the bridge out at Amons and Amix discussion?
No, I believe that's.
All right. Richard Henry called me. Go ahead, Tom.
get that ordinance ready, Julie. Looks like it'll come back around after we have the advisory committee meeting.
Yeah.
Yes, vote that out, and we'll be doing this. It'll seem like Groundhog Day, but it'll be formally submitting the request to council.
I love the idea of doing both of these sections of the bike path, Mayor, if we can get this done. I mean, this would be fantastic. So.
Yeah, it would, yeah, okay.
Good
Okay.
deal. All right. Richard Henry, I know Julie, you mentioned that he had contacted you. He also contacted me last week about the idea, and I know this has been up for discussion in years past. It's nice that it's resurfacing again, about a possible construction of a bridge near the dam, connecting Amons and Amix. Did Mr. Henry say that he was going to come on, or is he on tonight?
No, I think he's probably challenged in the area of
Yeah.
getting on Zoom.
Yeah, he retired with my dad from PPG, so that's the odds of that are pretty good.
Yeah, he says sometimes he gets on the Facebook, but I don't think, I asked him, he could type his question on there and he goes, well, why don't you just tell him for me? So I
All
don't
right.
think he interested. I said, okay.
I know that years ago that it was a pretty substantial amount of money that would have cost to build this bridge. And I'm sure since that discussion with inflation, it's probably went up. Does anybody have a rough idea of the type of bridge they're talking about and how much that cost would be?
Yeah, it was 180, Aaron, in that neighborhood. And that cost came from, there was a period of time we first were getting traction that we used a landscape architect that helped us initially with, I want to say the state grants that now we do for ourselves. What's that called, Matt? Nature Works.
Correct.
So we, this guy, and so we have a dated non-engineer but landscape architect estimated project around 180-ish. So just a generous updating of estimate, you're probably talking, say shy of 250. Everybody's going to get burned estimating costs because of construction materials, whether you're talking about steel, in this case, or any other material. So what this envisions is what I would describe as a precast bridge that would come in and would sit on the east side of the dam, and it would connect. I think this is what he said. It would connect Amons and Amix. Every so often you hear about, doggone it, we need a bathroom over there. We need to get rid of the porta pots on the Amix side. And I agree with that, but there's a lot of capital cost in that. So I won't digress any further than that, but I would say this would be a way to connect those two reservoirs and you can come across to the shelter slash res or bathroom on the Amen side. So it died for, in my opinion, that it wasn't as big a priority for the school to cooperate, because I see them as one of the bigger beneficiaries. It just wasn't one of the top priorities on the list. It might, what Rich is pointing out is like maybe every dog has its day. That was a Cervantes thing from Don Quixote. Anyways, I think that might be like that. This project might be like that, a little bit like the dog path. Been in the, people wanting it for 5 years or whatever now. This has been sitting kind of, it can't make it into the funding list. So if the school, this will get me in trouble with them. We hope that they would chip in, because they derive a lot of money at their events there in the fall. And we thought, I don't know what the right percentage is, but we thought, maybe they could help chip in to keep the traffic there at their big events safer. We ran into a little bit of obstacle with an interpretation that spending school money on non-school property was a problem. So Charlene Parkinson's really smart, does a great job as treasurer. Most people probably don't know her, but she was the one that kind of said, I really think we'll have a problem chipping in to get that done. So that's really, without saying too much, that's kind of how it kept falling off the bottom of the list. It didn't have a non-city partner. And so that's where it's at.
I guess my only question maybe be for Matt or the mayor, because you guys mentioned NatureWorks grants, and I'm not overly familiar with those. If this cost of this potentially is running between $225 and $250, what would be a reasonable guesstimate on the amount of grants that we could apply for and possibly be awarded to offset some of that cost? Do you think? Maybe Matt, if you're into grants a lot and submitting for those.
Sure. With the NatureWorks program specifically, every county in the state gets a specific allocation each year.
Okay.
So this year, Crawford County's allocation is 53,000 or a little bit over. So that is the total amount that we could request this year.
And that's spread throughout the entire county. Not
Correct.
just
Yeah.
specific
If
for the
another
city.
city applied, then
Okay.
yeah.
All right.
So
Basically
it's-
starting from scratch. Assume we start from scratch if we wanted to do this.
I got a question.
I've
Kenny?
thought about that, Aaron. No, but it doesn't, it's a really good project. I think it would double for runners and walkers. And Ken, I know you had a question. Right now, they do that cross-country course is a 5K.
Mhm.
Matt actually did this. I just think and talk about it. By putting that bridge in and thinking about going all the way around Amix, you turn that into a 10K course that runners can run without being on any asphalt but the daggone bridge to get across that we're talking about. So it's kind of neat in terms of a off-road 10K course.
Mhm.
I don't know if there's a whole lot of those. So that would be another, for me, a sort of an intriguing thing of getting a couple longer, is that a mini marathon, y'all that are runners? Is 10K a mini marathon or not quite long enough?
13 miles.
Yeah.
Too long for me.
Anyway, I'm just thinking of, some of the pop-up benefits of putting that bridge in, but till
I guess
Rich
it's-
up again, that knucklehead, we tried to forget about it, but he's right. It may be a project that we need to.
No, I mean, Mayor, you alluded to, and I think we've all driven by Amens and Amix during a major cross-country meet, and it's a traffic jam out there. And if I don't know how marketable a 10K course could be, but maybe that could be the catalyst to kind of nudge the school a little bit and say, hey, we might be willing to chip in on this and see what kind of market that would generate. But Kenny, you had your hand up.
Oh, I was just wanting to ask Tom, on a project like this, if you had the dimensions of the bridge and how it had to be made, could you do a little bartering with the Mosier Corporation?
I don't know.
To let
Yeah.
them help design that.
It's a neat idea.
They're here.
Yeah, we got in terms of fabricating it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good idea, Ken.
Yeah,
But I'm glad yeah, that's a good idea. What we had was an estimate done by a landscape architect to ask an engineer kind of what it would cost, and it's been a while. So that's at 180. And I was like, wow, that's a lot. So it never happened. It's probably up, I don't know, I'm wild guessing, but probably maybe in the 250 range. But I like the project. Mike had a question too, so.
Mike, you look like you're either deep in thought or you're frozen. Those wheels are turning again. What's on your mind?
No, I think the conversation is good, and I agree that the bridge was talked about. Oh, it's been several years ago, like the
Yeah.
mayor said. So I think it would be a definite addition, because eventually, if I'm not mistaken, the bike trail and up down at the reservoirs. So this would take and add an extra dimension in that regard as well.
Yeah, it's far beyond my capacity, Mike, but you're absolutely right. You get out there, our existing path. It is a bicyclist. You can imagine where it would go. As a walker, it really does well. But I mean, if you're going to ride 10, 12 miles, you need more than what we have now. Riding back and forth on those 0.8 of a mile that's
Yeah.
down to County Line Road, get into the Amix property, do a loop and come back. That's I think a achievable vision.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yep.
All right. Well, does anybody else have anything under other business this evening that they would like to bring up for discussion?
no.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what, I look forward to these being drafted into ordinances for next month. That's for sure. I think very productive, and I think everything that we're keying in on, is something that's very much in demand. So, if there's anybody, Julie, is there any other questions on Facebook?
Sarah just came up with something. Good thing you said something. I just happened to look. She said, other business, we are having a cleanup day at Heisey Park on April 18th. We would love to have the Parks Committee come down and jump in. We are trying to encourage positive action with service, and we also successfully adopted out all 19 flower beds at Heisey Park this year.
I would hope that's a Saturday, right?
Oh, yeah.
All right. Yeah, that sounds like fun. It'd be beautiful weather in the weekend before we get to open our
Actually, I
camper
think-
up, so I'll be bored.
April 18th, I think it's a Sunday.
All right.
The Sunday.
As long as it's not a Monday through Friday, I'd certainly be available. That sounds like it'd be a good time.
Yeah, it's a Sunday. Well,
All right.
all right.
All right. Well, does anybody else have anything before we get a motion to adjourn this evening?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, go ahead.
Mike?
I will second that.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Thank you,
you.
gentlemen. And Nikki, I hope everybody has a great night, and we'll talk to you all soon.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night, guys.